Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies and Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another manga review. Today we're going to be looking at the full series, and we're going to be covering Alma, volumes 1 through 4. This is a complete series. It's only 4 volumes, and Alma is written by Shinji Mito. It's a female mangaka, as far as I understand it. At least that's what she had told us at the end of the story. And Alma is published by Panini Manga, Mexico. This is a Mexican edition. It is in Spanish. And I don't know if this will ever come out in English. I don't know. I mean, I don't really see too much hype for it, so I very much doubt it will. But I don't know. Who knows, right? So, yeah, the demographic is seinen, and the genres here are sci-fi, drama, and adventure. Emphasis on the drama and the adventure, with the sci-fi being mostly... Well, actually, no, I would say that the sci-fi is definitely part of the drama, right? A lot of these situations that occur are directly linked to the sci-fi element of the story. So, yeah, in terms of adaptation, it doesn't have one, and I very much doubt it ever will, but I don't know. So, the premise is basically that there's this post-apocalyptic situation. There's a boy right here. His name is Ray, and a girl who is this character right there, whose name is Trice, like Beatrice, Tris. I don't know how to say her name. And this little hamster character here called Lambda. And they live, and they kind of just exist in this post-apocalyptic world. They seem to be the only people around. And Ray goes out and explores in order to try to map out the region, in order to try to figure out humans, if humans exist still, if he's the last one left. Well, him and Trice, right? And eventually, one day, they're just kind of interacting. They were just out and about. And this robot character shows up. And she attacks them because she realizes that he's human. And now she basically kills Tris. And we figure out that Tris is a robot as well. And that, you know, Ray had known all along, but he had managed to stop himself from telling her in order to kind of continue this facade that they had going on, this little cute moment of life that they had together. And she asked him to travel, to continue to go away, so that he can find what he's looking for, and then so he can come back one day and tell her all about it. And it's very interesting. It's very sad. It's a very good kind of inciting incident to the story. And then the boy goes on travels, and he ends up, you know, getting wrapped up into this robot-human war that he had no idea was going on, but it was actually more or less the reason that the world is in a post-apocalyptic kind of setting. So, yeah, the plotline is actually pretty interesting. It starts out kind of slow, and then it gets better, and then it kind of slows down again, and then it finally ends up being quite good at the end, right? So, I wouldn't say it's amazing by any means. It is better than good, so I would say it's about great. It's pretty interesting. It keeps you engaged. And by the end of it, I think that you do enjoy the story quite a bit. So, you know, if you guys decide to check it out some way, I think definitely give it past the second, well, I wouldn't say give it past the second volume, because at that point, you're just going to finish the whole story. So, you know, just buy the whole thing and read the whole thing. And if you don't like it, sell it off. It's really not that big of a deal. And, you know, if you're someone that's able to go to Mexico to buy this, it won't really be that big of an investment, because most of these manga are like $5 a piece, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, you know, switched over from Mexican pesos into American dollars. It's about $5 per volume. So, yeah, yeah, it's just good. It's getting to great, but it's not really there. But it's not really super easy to explain. The best I can give you is basically what I gave you for the premise. Is this boy is with a robot, and the robot one day dies because another robot kills her, because she protects him from this robot killing him. And then he has to travel to try to find other humans. Eventually, he kind of does, which isn't really a spoiler, but yeah, and then he ends up in this war, right? And the focus really isn't on the war aspect. It is mostly the, like, mystery of the situation more than anything. So, the introduction, which is what I just told you guys, the traveling segment, where he's basically... The second half of the first volume and the first half of the second volume is basically him going somewhere, eventually reaching some region. I think it's Bucharest or Budapest. I don't know. I don't know what the English version of it, but in Spanish it's Bucharest. And he travels and he gets there and he meets humans. And then there's this twist, which is the explanation of the fact that humans and robots are basically living in a very tense, like, war situation for some reason. And then he joins the humans. He meets this character called Leukemia, and he gets brought into Moscow, which is where the last stronghold of humanity is. And then they go to war to try to shut down all the robots, because there's this thing in Japan where they they can do that. And then there's a major twist that changes the whole aspect of the story, and the story ends, and it's actually quite good by the end of it. So, yeah, there's a bit of a quick pace to the story. It's only 4 volumes, so it has to get through the story quite fast. I don't think it was canceled, but I don't think it just... I just think it didn't really have that much going for it once the situation explained itself. So, I don't know. However, I do want to say that the dialogue, it is somewhat confusing, and I thought this was only my fault because I wasn't understanding what the Spanish was trying to tell me, because, you know, I am natively from Mexico, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a perfect reader of Spanish, because I've lived in the U.S. most of my life, so that kind of affects my ability to read in Spanish, because I don't really do it that often. And I thought that was an issue. However, I looked at the English versions of the scans, and they were also confusing in a very similar way, so I think it was just the Japanese writing wasn't really the best, and so when it was translated, it kind of had this confusion to it. So I don't know. Also, sometimes the story moved at a pace that was so fast that you really didn't understand what's going on, because some of the character designs were very, very similar, and so I wasn't sure what was happening. But overall, those confusing moments kind of go away really quickly, because the story moves along and you don't really have time to realize it, or really have time to care enough about it, because it just keeps moving and it has to finish. And overall, I think it was good. So even with those little bits of confusion and the quick pace, I think everything else about it was quite well done. And I did enjoy reading it quite a lot. So the characters are Ray, Lambda, and Trice. Those are the 3 main characters, the initial characters that we meet. Then there's Leukemia, who is this character right here. And she is this very tough woman. She has a robotic arm because she lost her arm for some reason. We don't actually know why. We just know that she has a metal arm. And she is this very hard-ass military woman. She meets Ray, and then she, changes because of Ray a little bit. And then they go back to Moscow, and we get to learn about her family, which is the Constantine family, and we get to learn about all of the situations that happened with her family, and this kind of low-key racism, because she is Turkish in origin and her family are mostly German, and it kind of has some issues there. It also kind of lets us see that, humanity is still just as shitty as always. And then we get to see this other character called Ruchi, who is actually one of the funniest and best characters in the story, and quite like him a lot. And we get to see a few other characters, but most of them don't really matter too much. So there you go. In terms of world building, though, I think it's quite good. There's this AI development that happened in the time period we are in now, according to the story. Eventually, this AI development leads to these things called replicas, which is basically what they call robots in this world. It's kind of the same idea as, calling robots in Star Wars droids, or calling robots in Heartgear gears. It's the same idea. And eventually, there's these wars that break out in the world, basically World War III. And eventually, this leads to the creation of robot replicas that are now soldiers, because they remove some of the control systems that the replicas have. Because, usually when there's robots, there's also some iteration of Asimov's laws, the 3 laws of robotics, which are basically do no harm to humans. What's the second law? Do no harm to humans. Assist humans in everything you can, and if there's ever a rule that or there's ever a command that affects the acceptance of the first 2 rules, don't follow it. I think that's the 3 laws of Isaac Asimov's robotics. I can't remember exactly, but there's 3 laws, and he created them, and that's more or less what we all kind of think about when we think of controlling systems for AI, because without these controls, they kind of will take over the world, like Ultron and Skynet and all these types of robot characters. And And so soldier replicas exist, and then human clones exist at some point, and then shit gets real, and the world goes to war, and then the world basically dies, and we're left with whatever is left over, right? And now, you know, after the replicas free themselves from their control systems, from their control laws, they're trying to kill the humans, and the humans are trying to fight back, but the humans are basically dwindling in number into this very kind of simplistic and very small group of people, and they've lost a lot of knowledge about the technologies that went into creating the robots and all of the technologies that went into creating all their weaponry and all of the stuff. So they've kind of been devolving as a society, but the robots have continued to evolve positively, and so there's this kind of end days situation coming until the humans meet Ray, who happens to have this power because he has been designated as Zero, the one thing the robots don't want to kill. So he now has this power, and they're going to use him to go to Alma, which is the central hub of replica knowledge in Japan, and he has to go there so they can try to turn it off so that humans can once again take over the world, right? And the world building was great. I think the world building, at least, was probably the best part. And also really like the world building a lot because at the end of the volume 4, at the end of the story, we get a bunch of stuff. Let's see. All of this stuff, which is all just world building that the mangaka wanted to fit in somewhere. And she couldn't, so she just tacked it on at the end. It's very good. I actually really like it. It explains so much about the story that wasn't really explained during the storytelling, so I like that a lot. I thought it was really, really good. And the world building is probably the best part of the story. So, yeah. In terms of art, I think it's quite amazing. It's actually really, really well done. The action scenes are very exciting. The character design is very good. And the way everything looks is just really, really great. So, yeah, I don't know. Not much to say there. There's a little bit of fan service. A lot of the female robot characters definitely have some fan servicey scenes, and Leukemia has some fan servicey scenes as well. So yeah, I wouldn't really say that it detracts at all from the story. It basically is barely there, so you'll really only notice it if you're someone that pays attention to that type of stuff, which I do, because partially for the review, partially because I like fan service. I don't know, it's not that deep. And in terms of rating, I would give this a 4 out of 5. I think it was almost perfect. However, that little bit of confusing dialogue and some of the scenes where it confuses you because you're not sure who's talking or you're not sure which character is which, kind of brought down the story quite a bit. But if it didn't have that, this would have been a perfect short sci-fi story to read for anyone. So yeah, that's it for that. That's all I have to say about the series. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know your thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.